Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. Of course we have Cosmo right here. Hello, welcome back to this video. You know, I have a running list of ideas for videos that I want to do, and when I'm short on time I sort of like to just pull that out. This lip gloss has mint oil in it, and he's a fan of it, but you can't have mint right now. Okay, anyway, so this video is going to be reading and judging the first sentence of some of my favorite romances. And there is one YA book in here, if we can get to it in time. So I'm going to read you the first sentence of each of these books, and I'm going to briefly talk about if it's engaging, if I would continue reading, and by engaging I mean, like, does it hook me? Does that first sentence really hook me and grip me and want me to continue reading? And also what it's telling me. What is that first sentence telling me about the book? You know, I think so many authors polish, and they should, they polish their first chapter so much. Usually their first chapter is the most highly edited piece in any writer's book, because that's usually the first thing that people read, either if they pull it off the slush pile, or, you know, somebody's browsing in the bookstore or reading a sample on Kindle Unlimited. So the first chapter is usually very powerful. And I did try a chapter earlier, but we're going to distill it down to just first sentences. So let's go ahead and jump in. So the first one that I have is Day of the Duchess by Sarah MacLean, one of my favorite historical romances. And Sarah MacLean is one of my favorite writers. I think she's fantastic, honestly. I just love and adore her. So let's go ahead and see the very first sentence, chapter 1. She'd left him 2 years, 7 months ago, exactly. Okay, so if I'm going to rate this 1 out of 5, 1 being the worst. Now, all of these books are my favorite, so I don't think we're going to see any that are 1. I think that this first sentence is pretty dang good. It's short and concise, and it really conveys what the whole story is going to be about. You know right from the get-go, this is about a relationship that's in trouble. She left him a certain amount of time ago, exactly. And the thing that I think is really interesting in here, and also really clever, is that she doesn't just say 2 years. Like, the first sentence, it's a choice that she made, Sarah MacLean made, to say the exact amount of time that she had left him, which implies that she's still missing him. She's still thinking about him. Maybe she didn't really want to leave him, that it's still very painful. And I think that gives the reader the idea that there is the possibility to rekindle that here at some point. So I think 1 out of 5, that's a 5. That's a 5 opening line, in my opinion. So 5 out of 5, Day of the Duchess. Okay, the next one is from There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. And I tried to pick books that I had read a while ago so that it wouldn't be, like, right in my memory, although I did pick one that I just recently reread. So, okay, now this is a dark romance. There Are No Saints is a dark romance with serial killer and the heroine who kind of gets dragged along into this cat and mouse game. So the first chapter, this is in alternating points of view. The first chapter is from Cole's point of view, so he's the hero, ultimately, of this. And it says, I saw the headlines that a girl had been murdered on Ocean Beach, her body left floating in the ruins of the old Sutro baths. So I think right off the bat, that's obviously super engaging. It's very mysterious, it's very intriguing, and it really sets the stage for what this book is about. It's a book about a serial killer, and it gives you this feeling of dread and, like, almost like a sick type of feeling that a body was found. So you get all those, like, horrifying feelings of death, bodies being found, murder, and it does paint a very vivid picture of what the book is going to be about. The thing that I think maybe that The Day of the Duchess did stronger is this doesn't really give any type of hint about any type of romance. So that implies to me that the romance may be secondary, that at this point we're sort of just getting into this character's specific head. So in that way, I think this is slightly less effective as a dark romance than Sarah MacLean's as a historical romance, because they're both romances. So the thing they're trying to convince you of is that there's romance in here at some point. And that is, I think, definitely harder in a dark romance. So I think the dark is very well set, you know. excellently well set, but it doesn't really tell us a lot about the character. It doesn't really imply anything about the relationship. And I know that's a lot to ask in the first sentence, but that's what we're doing here. So I think that I would give that one a 3 out of 5. So this one is a 3. A really compelling first sentence. I would want to keep, obviously I love that book. I would want to keep reading. I would want to find out, who is this girl? Why are you finding bodies? Like, what's the mystery? There's some mysterious element there that I really like. Okay, this next book is Elisa Braden, The Making of a Highlander. This is actually the first book I read from Elisa Braden, recommended by Jesson. She discovered this author for us, and I will be forever grateful because I love her. So this is a Highlander romance with a little bit of magical, it's not magical realism. There's a little bit of magic in here. So chapter 1, the basic premise of, well, I'm just going to read the first chapter. Not the first chapter, the first sentence. Chapter 1. Did you wear it betwixt your bosoms, as I instructed? Mrs. McBean's squint was an accusation of imbecility, one Annie Tulloch did not appreciate. Okay, so I think that's an excellent first sentence. That really grips you. It gives you this feeling of charming, funny humor. It's a little bit quirky. It's very witty, and it also tells you a lot about the heroine, Annie. Annie is the heroine. She's the Scottish woman. She needs to learn how to be the bride of an Englishman, and the Englishman needs to learn how to be the Scotsman in this competition, so they're helping each other that way. So right off the bat, you know from that chapter that Annie is a little bit disobedient, and she also doesn't like being told what to do. It's a little bit funny. We know a little bit about Mrs. McBean. She's this older woman who's trying to tell her what to do. And I also feel like the quote, did you wear it betwixt your bosoms as I instructed, that implies to me that that's a little bit of the magical element that's already in there and is setting the stage right there. So I think that's a fantastic first sentence. I think also because it's involving bosoms, betwixt the bosoms, that also does give you the indication that something romantic is happening here, right? So I think that, again, for me, this first sentence, 5 out of 5. I think this is a fantastic first sentence. It really sets the stage, sets the tone of what the book is going to be about. Very witty, very sharp. Words are used very effectively. I love it. So 5 out of 5 for that one. Okay, so now we're going to do a YA book. We're going to do Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I've been talking a lot about Laini Taylor recently. If you've watched maybe like the last 3 or 4 of my videos, I love and adore her. She's been an inspiration for me for a very long time. I love her books so much. This book is stunning, beautiful, YA fantasy, full of depth and emotion and just top tier. But I haven't read this book in a very long time. I think the last time I read this was like 2019. So it's been about 4 years. So let's go ahead and see what the first... Okay, so now this has a prologue and a first chapter. So what we're going to do... We're going to go with the prologue. We're going to read the first line of the prologue because that's what we would be reading first if we were trying this out. So, the first sentence is, on the second Sabbat of 12th moon in the city of Weep, a girl fell from the sky. I love that so much. So, because this is a YA fantasy, I think just the fact that we have the name of this city, Weep, that seems something that's not in our world, that seems a little bit magical, so we have a fantasy element in right there. The fact that a girl fell from the sky creates a lot of intrigue, mysteriousness, like what's happening. That's going to compel us to continue reading, which I really, really like. And I also like the second Sabbat of 12th moon. That's another fantastical element. What is 12th moon? I think Sabbat, we can kind of imply what we know from our modern world as to what she means here. I think that's a super, super effective first sentence in a book that really gets you invested in what's happening, that's going to make you want to keep reading. So I think that, again, 5 out of 5, that's an excellent, perfect first line. So I do feel like, as I'm judging these, I think, the only thing that I really didn't like about, it's not even that I didn't like it, the first sentence of There Are No Saints is compelling. It's interesting. But again, it doesn't really tell you a lot about the character, and it doesn't really give you any instances that there's going to be a romance. It does give you that feeling of mysteriousness, and it does set the stage for a dark book. Like, dark things are going to be happening. There's a murder. A girl has been murdered. There's a body floating. Questions. We have questions, right? So, I don't know. Maybe that's a 4. Maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe I'm being too generous. We'll say 3.5 for that one. Okay, so now The last one I'm going to do is Longshot by Kennedy Ryan. So, I did just reread this in December, but I don't remember what the first sentence is, so let's go ahead and see. Okay, so the prologue. The first sentence in the prologue, this also has a prologue and an opening chapter. I was there when the levees broke. So, I think that that is a very beautiful sentence. I think that that is classic Kennedy Ryan because it really highlights how she uses her words to be poetic. That is really giving you a feeling. You're in this character's head. You right off the bat, you know it's first person point of view. She was there when the levees broke. You don't know what exactly she's talking about. Is it an actual levee? Is it something else? Is it something connected with something else? If you've read this book, you know exactly what she's talking about right there. But it does imply this sense of danger. And I think that's a vital component to what this book is about. Danger is a huge element. This is about domestic violence and the romance that she finds when she's escaping that. So I think that that was a very successful first sentence, but it doesn't really give you a sense of the characters. It doesn't really give you a sense of any type of romance, but it does engender curiosity, and it does make you wonder what's happening. Is there danger? You know, so I think I would give that 4 out of 5. I think it's beautifully poetic, but just judging off of the other books that we have read, I think that some of them are maybe more successful on really getting you a full picture of what the book is about, sort of starting to lay the groundwork for it, as does that sentence there, but it's also a little bit metaphorical, which again echoes back to how beautiful and powerful Kennedy Ryan's use of language is. So I'm going to give it 5 stars because of that aspect. So I know I said 4 out of 5. That's a 5 out of 5 first line. So I don't know that my ratings were very effective because these are some of my favorite books of all time. So how objective can I really be? But there you go. I had a lot of fun doing this. It's just a sort of last minute idea I had. Let me know if you enjoyed it and if you'd like me to do this again. I think that I could do this with a lot of books personally. And if you've made it this far, please feel free to leave me a shamrock emoji or something, because that's Irish. This is Scottish. I don't know, man. Leave me a shamrock emoji. I'll see y'all in my next video.